Hey guys, how's it going? It's Calvin Raab. So this video goes out to all my entrepreneurs out there, everyone out there who's looking for a business idea, everyone who's looking to see what is the next industry that needs disruption, that's running on kind of an old system and needs to be rejuvenated, needs someone to come in and blow it up. And that's what this video is going to be about. In this video, I'm going to go over 5 different industries as a whole that really need disruption. And then after I go over these 5, I'm going to go over a few points at the end about how to find industries that need disruption and what are kind of some telltale signs that say, hey, that industry needs to change and I think I can do it. So I'm going to go over that in the end. And by the end, I'm hoping you have a pretty good idea of industries that need to be changed. And hopefully, if you have an entrepreneurial mind, if you're imaginative, if you're creative, you can find a way to change that industry and hopefully just make life in general better. And of course, it can make you a lot of money as well. So let's get into these industries that need disruption. The first one is the finance sector in general. So this is something that I've seen in the past few years. A few startups have really came in and just kind of really rocked the finance industry, but I think it could use a little more rocking and shaking up. You can think of places like Robinhood that came in and introduced $0 commissions, and then all of a sudden people joined it, and that changed the industry. Now virtually everyone has $0 commissions. There's also places like Wealthfront and places that came in with high interest savings accounts, and then now all of a sudden big banks are having to introduce high interest savings accounts. So little things like that. As far as why it needs disruption, just think about how many banks there are. You can think about how much money it is. Are there that many banks that are really necessary? Just outside my house here, I think if you drive down this road, one time I counted, there are like 9 banks. It's unbelievable how many they are. And you have to ask, are they running at peak efficiency? I don't think banking has gotten the best apps. Maybe there's a new app out there that you could create. And one thing that I was even thinking about the other day that I'm just going to kind of share with you here is whenever I'm running financial numbers, I'm having to go to a different websites all the time. So if I'm trying to find like compound interest, then I have to go to one site. If I'm trying to look at different loans and different things like that, I have to go to another site. And I'm always surprised it's not all in one spot. I'm also surprised with different things like, these are just things that I'm thinking on top of my head. I'm also surprised that I still have to use a wallet. How is everything not already in my phone or something like that? I know Apple's wallet is trying to do that, Apple Pay and different things like that, but I just wish I didn't have my wallet and I could have like my ID and everything in my phone or something like that. So there's tons of opportunities here. The finance industry still runs on a pretty archaic business model, so maybe there's something there that you can come in and disrupt. Number 2 is the legal system. And this one, I do have to say that I don't have an expertise on the legal system as a whole. Just because of my interest in politics, and I have a roommate that is working to become a lawyer. I know a bit about it, but I'm not actively studying kind of American law or anything like that. But I do believe it is ripe for disruption. And the main thing that I think could be kind of revolutionized or changed within here is how expensive legal help is. So no matter what field you're in, getting a lawyer, getting legal help, getting something that is signed by a lawyer or that has legal binding behind it is crazy expensive that most people can't afford if you're trying to make a small business deal or something along those lines. So if there was some way that we could change the legal system in such a way that just some of the little transactions that need to be legally binding can be cheaper in some way that more people have access to lawyers at a cheaper price, then I think you would drastically change the industry, because right now it's just so expensive, and I just think there's something there that can make it cheaper. And if I knew what it was, I'd be working on it right now, but I don't, and I've been thinking about it a little bit, but maybe there's something here. The legal system hasn't changed that much as technology has been introduced, so maybe there's something there for you to kind of change and break into. Number 3 is the education system. Now, I know there's a lot of videos about how bad the education system is, and I agree and disagree with different points that are made in the video. Now, as far as the education system needing to be kind of revamped and changed, some people are trying. There are places like Khan Academy that works on tutoring, and that's something that I use quite a bit. Khan Academy has helped me in more ways than I can probably talk about in this video, in that I would just be talking forever. But Khan Academy is an amazing resource. But other than that, a lot of people talk about how college isn't really preparing you for the job later in life. It's packs you with all this information, but once you get to the real job, they're the ones really training you. So is there any way that you can somehow change the education system in such a way that you can help prepare people? Or maybe there's a class that you think should be taught. I certainly think personal finance should be taught in schools and different things like that. So if there are different ways that you can somehow change the education system for the better, I think could easily change it, because education still runs on a pretty archaic system. I think certainly artificial intelligence could personalize one's education a little bit more. And I still sit in a lecture in a big lecture hall with the professor up front teaching on the board, and that's the same way that my dad went to school, and that's the same way that my grandpa went to school. With all this new education that we have, I would think it'd be a little bit different by now. The number 4 industry that I think needs disruption is fast food. Now, the reason that I kind of think this is because I'm just surprised that in the day we live in today, there are still people working at fast food restaurants. I mean, I am so surprised that robots can't yet make like a sandwich. Robots can make a car, they can make extremely complex phones, but I'm surprised they can't make a sandwich yet. I'm always kind of surprised by that. So I think the tech is out there to do this, and I think the first person to really capitalize on that will win a lot of the industry, because if you can just lower the price because you no longer have to pay employees or anything like that, then you can make a very, very cheap sandwich or anything like that. And then also it's important to remember that I think one big thing is healthy fast food. I think that's certainly an industry. If someone can figure out how to make healthy fast food, meaning it's healthy but it's also quick and cheap. Now, I don't think anyone's perfected yet. There are different places that are cheap-ish, like Rubio's and different things like that, that are healthy, but no one's really mastered it yet. So if you can somehow find a way to do that, and I do understand, as I'm talking about these machines and everything like that, like, it's kind of scary because a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. I know a lot of people working in the fast food industry, and if tech did take it over, I think a lot of them are going to lose their jobs. So it is scary in that way, but I do think that it is ripe for disruption because the technology's there. Number 5 is the health industry, and I do have to kind of issue the disclaimer of, just like the one with law, I don't know much about the health industry. I'm fascinated by it. I am actually interested in going into the industry from an economics perspective, but as far as the health industry as a whole, I do think there are ways in that it could change. I do feel like hospitals have done a decent job going paperless, at least the ones in my local area are now paperless, but I do feel it could change in a couple ways. Firstly, I'm surprised that there's no central place to go for health information. I'm very surprised by that. The fact that, there's things like WebMD and different things like that, but there's no real central place that everyone can go to get reliable information. I'm also surprised that there's no real virtual doctor's appointments yet. With where we are with FaceTime, with tech, I'm surprised that you can't FaceTime a nurse or a doctor in some way. And maybe you can, maybe I just haven't heard of these startups yet. They haven't been blown up and become popular yet because I haven't heard of them, or maybe I'm just out of the loop, which that is certainly could happen too. I don't know everything about this industry, but I feel like that would be really cool because, if you could just get FaceTime, then you wouldn't have to wait in the hospitals. It's definitely out of everyone's way to have to go to the hospital, wait there. Plus there's a lot of sometimes germs in the air and things like that, and it could streamline things. So I definitely think there's an opportunity there. So I think if you can find anything within the health industry to make it easier for people, then I think you can make quite a bit of money and make a pretty big, important business doing that. So those are 5 industries when I was thinking about this video and kind of writing my script for this that I saw that really needed disruption. I now want to talk about a few things that you can look at to see if an industry needs disruption. And some may be obvious, but I think they're important to know. So the first thing you want to look for when you're looking for an industry that needs disruption is you first want to see if it runs an archaic system, meaning if a particular industry hasn't changed for tens or even hundreds of years. You know, if it's done the same way, this kind of goes back to that education example. Because if something has been done the same way for so long, and especially with the advances in technology that we've had, especially in the 21st century here, and that industry hasn't changed, it's probably ripe for disruption, because usually when tech gets involved somewhere, it's usually streamlined and things can go faster. So if something runs an archaic system, it could be changed. The second thing to look for is if you know of robots that could do it. You know, this one of course is pretty obvious, but if you know of something that you're like, wait, if you took that and put it in this industry, it could really speed things up. You know, this kind of goes back to that sandwich example of that fast food place. Like, all right, I know robots can do it, they just haven't yet. So maybe you are the one to draw and close that gap. And then the last thing is just personal desire, meaning if you're doing something, if you're working with a particular industry, you're involved with an industry in some way, whether it be maybe at a fast food place or a health place, and you're just really frustrated. You're like, and you just feel like, this could be done better. This doesn't have to be done in this way. It could be changed in this. If you ever say things like, I wish they did this. Why don't they just do this? Couldn't they just do that? Then that probably means that there is some level of disruption that could be needed. So take that frustration. Don't let it make you mad, but rather channel it to go and create something that kind of fix that problem. Because I guarantee you that if you're the one getting really mad about something, you're probably not the only one that is frustrated by that. There's probably hundreds of other people probably that day that are frustrated by the same thing, and that if you fix their issues, you can disrupt that particular industry and make some good money doing it. All right, so those are 5 different industries that I think could use disruption. And then in the end, I went over a couple ways that I spotted these industries and what to look out for when looking for an industry that could use disruption. So now I kind of want to turn the question to you and see what your thoughts are. What are some other industries that could use disruption? I would love it if you'd let me know in the comments below. Let's have a conversation about it. You know, watching this video, there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of people that I've met on my channel just commenting and different things like that have a pretty entrepreneurial mind. So if we can try to fix some issues, maybe you can get an idea or share something that may spark someone else's idea, and who knows, maybe something big can come out of this. And ideally that's what I want. I want to have a good conversation around this. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you're new here, I would love it if you would subscribe. But other than that, that will wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, my name is Raab, and I'll see you soon. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. So I'm going to move to the corner of your screen here. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you are going to see my most recent video. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a video that YouTube and I each think that you would like. And if you haven't yet, you can hit my face right here and subscribe. As always, my name is Raab, and I'll see you soon.